TG Canoes and Kayaks, shout out to you being in here. He says, with Pop's health issues, curious on our head coach's status in the coming years. Here's what I want to say about this. I just, when the Pop news first came out, there wasn't a lot of information on it. Tom Orsborn reported that he was doing okay and that he was fine. So when we heard that and we didn't know, it was, hey, a full-on stroke, as much as they did say it was a mild stroke, like still a stroke's a stroke, I wasn't really even thinking about it. And honestly, with some of the things that we've seen since then, not to say Mitch Johnson has been perfect. We just criticized the Stephon minutes the past 2 games. I'm sure that's what a lot of people are feeling right now. But still, overall, with the way that he's performed, I think that still exceeded my expectations to this point. He's shown me more than I thought he would, I guess is the way that I'll put it. But we probably shouldn't be too surprised with how many coaches and assistant coaches from the Spurs have become head coaches. And I was even thinking about this just while we're on this topic. Mitch Johnson, he may get some calls this offseason, with the way that he's done. And I know there's things that you can criticize for Mitch Johnson, but still, there's also some good things that he's done with the Spurs in this head coach role as well. And regardless, we're still at a completely different place than we were the past 2 seasons, as much as the roster is different. But the bigger thing I want to get at here, with all of that being said, is just kind of what are your thoughts on Pop's future with this extended absence? I know he came out and he wrote the letter and he said, thank you all for the support. Like, I'll be back, on the sidelines as soon as I can. But I do wonder, going through something like this, if that's made him rethink some things. That's not me saying, oh, he's going to for sure retire after this season. But I do think after this incident that the amount of time that I thought he would be here is a little bit less than I thought previously.
Yeah, I don't want to assume what he's
Right.
feeling or what's going on in his head, but if I were to make a prediction, I would say that he probably comes back at some point this year and finishes off as the head coach of the Spurs for this season, and then steps down next year to let Mitch Johnson take over as the head coach. That would be my prediction. It makes sense Spurs wise. If it was me in his shoes, that's what I would do, because he is very old at this point. I'm sure it was a health scare. He still has grandkids and kids that he probably wants to be with. But I don't think he would retire without coming back first, because like Tanner said, I think that the Spurs fan base would want to send him off the right way, in the arena with Timmy there, Tony, Manu,
Yeah.
Dave, everybody, to say thank you and to send him on his merry way to enjoy retirement.
And I don't think, frankly, the owner of Spurs Sports and Entertainment,
Right.
RC Buford, because he's now the owner, like the literal
Mhm.
CEO, I don't think he would even let him like walk without getting something
Right.
straight up.
And
So
maybe he's just sitting in the back and on the bench and letting Mitch be the coach, right? And he's more so there as like a glorified assistant coach or an advisory role. But I think going into next year, I think Mitch Johnson's the head coach.
interesting. Okay. Okay. I have some faith or some inkling in me that Pop might do one more year, but that's max. That's my max.
I wish we knew more about the stroke, because they're saying it's mild, but that's also the Spurs. Like, they don't want to.
Yeah.
Pop is private guy. The Spurs are a private organization. They're not going to air out the seriousness of something. So I guess it all just depends on what he's feeling, what's going through his head, and how serious it actually is. Because we'll never know unless Pop comes out and says it directly, or
Right.
we haven't even seen him. Right,
Yeah.
like he's literally just been at home, I'm assuming, the entire time. So who knows how serious it actually is.
Yeah. 100%.